The sun burned hot over Forward Operating Base Salerno in Afghanistan. It was the kind of heat that made everything shimmer in the distance. The kind that made soldiers move slowly and think about cold water every 5 minutes. It was 3 in the afternoon on a Tuesday in July 2011, and most people on the base were trying to stay in the shade. Staff Sergeant Marcus Webb was not in the shade. He was lying on his back under an Apache attack helicopter in the main hangar. Sweat dripped down his face and mixed with the grease on his hands. He had been working on this bird for the past 6 hours. The hydraulic system had been giving trouble, and Marcus was the kind of mechanic who would not quit until he fixed the problem completely. Marcus was 32 years old. He had been in the Army for 12 years. He was tall and thin, with dark hair that was always cut short. His uniform was always dirty because he was always working on helicopters. The other mechanics called him Webb the Wizard because he could fix any problem. He knew these Apache helicopters better than anyone on the base. He could take one apart and put it back together with his eyes closed. The hangar was loud with the sound of tools and men talking. There were 3 other helicopters being worked on. Mechanics moved around with parts and equipment. The radio in the corner played country music. It was a normal afternoon at the base. Everyone was doing their job and thinking about dinner. Then everything changed. Captain Rachel Morrison was in the operations center on the other side of the base. She was the officer in charge of air support for the region. She sat at her desk looking at maps and reports. The phone on her desk rang. She picked it up without thinking much about it. "Captain Morrison," she said. The voice on the other end was breathing hard. "Captain, this is Sergeant Chen with Alpha Team. We need immediate air support. We are taking heavy fire. Multiple casualties. We need help now." Rachel sat up straight in her chair. Her heart started beating faster. "What is your location, Sergeant?" "We are in the Tangi Valley. Grid coordinates 374296. We walked into an ambush. Enemy fighters on the ridges above us. We cannot move. They have the high ground. We need air support right now or we are all dead." Rachel could hear gunfire through the phone. She could hear men shouting. She knew this was bad. Very bad. "Hold on, Sergeant. I am getting you help. Stay on the line." Rachel grabbed her radio with her other hand. She called the flight line. "This is Captain Morrison. I need an Apache in the air immediately. We have troops in contact in the Tangi Valley." There was a pause on the radio. Then a voice came back. It was Lieutenant Harris from the flight operations. "Captain, we have a problem. Both Apache pilots are out on a resupply mission. They will not be back for at least 3 hours. Rachel felt her stomach drop. 3 hours. The men in that valley did not have 3 hours. They might not have 30 minutes. "What about the helicopter? Is it ready to fly?" she asked. "The Apache is ready. Webb just finished working on it. But we do not have a pilot." Rachel made a decision in 2 seconds. She grabbed her hat and ran out of the operations center. She ran across the base toward the hangar. The heat hit her like a wall, but she did not slow down. Soldiers turned to watch her run past. They knew something was wrong. She burst through the hangar doors. The music was still playing. Mechanics were still working. They looked up in surprise when they saw the captain running. "Listen up," Rachel shouted. Every head turned toward her. The music was turned off. The hangar went quiet. "I need an Apache pilot right now. We have men dying in the Tangi Valley. They need air support immediately. Is there any Apache pilot on this base? Anyone?" The mechanics looked at each other. Nobody spoke. The silence was heavy. Rachel felt panic rising in her chest. These men were going to die because there was no pilot. Then she heard a sound. Metal clanking against concrete. Everyone turned to look at the Apache helicopter in the middle of the hangar. A pair of boots appeared from under the aircraft. Then legs. Then a body covered in grease and dirt. Marcus Webb slid out from under the helicopter. He sat up slowly. He still held a wrench in his right hand. Marcus looked at Captain Morrison. Their eyes met across the hangar. For a moment, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. "I can fly it," Marcus said quietly. The hangar stayed silent for 3 more seconds. Then everyone started talking at once. "Webb, what are you talking about?" one of the mechanics said. "You are a mechanic, not a pilot," another one added. Captain Morrison walked quickly across the hangar. She stopped in front of Marcus. He stood up. He was taller than her by half a foot. "Say that again, Sergeant," she said. Marcus looked her in the eyes. "I said I can fly it, ma'am. I can fly the Apache. "You are a mechanic," Rachel said. She was not angry. She was confused. "Your file says you are a helicopter mechanic." "Nothing about being a pilot." Marcus wiped his hands on a rag. His heart was pounding, but his voice was steady. "I was in flight school 10 years ago, ma'am. I washed out before I finished. But I logged over 200 hours in the Apache. I know how to fly it." Rachel stared at him. Her mind was racing. This was against every rule, against every protocol. You could not just put a mechanic in a combat helicopter and send him into a firefight. But those men were dying. Right now. Every second she waited, more of them could die. "Why did you wash out?" she asked. Marcus hesitated. This was the part he did not want to talk about. "I failed a high-pressure simulation test. I froze up. They said I could not handle the stress of combat flying." This information should have ended the conversation. Rachel should have said no immediately. But she looked at Marcus Webb. She had been on this base for 6 months. She had seen him work. She had seen him stay up all night to fix helicopters so they could fly the next morning. She had seen other mechanics come to him when they could not solve a problem. She knew he was the best they had and those men were dying. "When was your last flight?" she asked. 3 days ago. "I do test flights after every major repair. I took this bird up for 40 minutes on Saturday." Rachel looked at the Apache helicopter behind him. She looked back at Marcus. She grabbed her radio. "Lieutenant Harris, this is Captain Morrison. I am putting Staff Sergeant Marcus Webb in the Apache. He is flying the support mission." The radio exploded with voices. "Captain, he is not qualified." "This is against—" "I do not care, Lieutenant. We do not have time. Those men are dying right now. Get me a weapons officer and prep that bird for immediate takeoff. That is an order." She let go of the radio button and looked at Marcus. "You better be as good as you say you are, Sergeant." Marcus nodded once. "I am, ma'am." "Then get in that helicopter." The hangar erupted into action. Mechanics ran to pull the chocks away from the Apache's wheels. The fuel crew double-checked the tanks. Someone ran to get Marcus a flight suit and helmet. Captain Morrison got back on the phone with the men in the valley. "Sergeant Chen, I have air support coming. Hold your position. Help is on the way." Marcus pulled off his dirty uniform shirt and grabbed the flight suit someone handed him. His hands were shaking just a little bit, but he made them stop. He had not flown a combat mission in his life. He had not even wanted to be in a cockpit for 10 years. But right now he was the only chance those men had. He walked toward the Apache. The helicopter sat there like a predator, black and deadly, beautiful and terrifying. He had fixed every part of this machine. He knew every wire, every bolt, every system, but fixing it and flying it into combat were two completely different things. "Webb," one of the mechanics called out. "Bring her back in one piece." Marcus looked back and gave a small smile. "I will bring her back. I promise." He climbed up into the cockpit. The seat felt strange and familiar at the same time. It had been 10 years since he sat in this seat as anything other than a mechanic doing a test flight. 10 years since he had given up on his dream of being a pilot. Lieutenant Ana Reyes ran across the hangar. She was the weapons systems officer who would sit behind him. She climbed into the back seat and put on her helmet. "I hope you know what you are doing, Sergeant," she said through the intercom. Marcus started flipping switches. The Apache systems came to life one by one. Screens lit up. The engines began their startup sequence. "So do I, Lieutenant," Marcus replied. "So do I." Captain Morrison stood outside the helicopter. She watched the rotors begin to turn. She had just made a decision that could save lives or end her career. Maybe both. She spoke into her radio one more time. "Sergeant Chen, air support is lifting off now. Stay alive. We are coming." In the Tangi Valley, 12 American soldiers pressed themselves against rocks as bullets struck all around them. 2 of them were wounded. They were running out of ammunition. Sergeant Chen held his radio and looked up at the empty sky. "Copy that, Captain. We will be here. We are not going anywhere." Back at the base, the Apache's rotors reached full speed. The sound was deafening. Marcus felt the power of the machine through the controls. This was it. No more time to think. No more time to doubt. He pulled up on the collective. The Apache lifted off the ground. Dust flew everywhere. The helicopter rose into the hot Afghan sky. Marcus turned the nose toward the mountains, toward the Tangi Valley, toward the sound of guns and dying men. He was a pilot again. The Apache rose higher into the sky. Marcus kept his eyes on the instruments. Everything was working perfectly. He had made sure of that. The helicopter responded to every touch of the controls. It felt good. It felt right. But Marcus knew that flying over a safe base was completely different from flying into a combat zone. Lieutenant Ana Reyes sat in the back seat. She was 26 years old and had been flying combat missions for 2 years. She was good at her job, very good. But right now she was nervous. She was flying with a mechanic who washed out of flight school 10 years ago. This was insane. "Sergeant Webb," she said through the intercom, "I need to know exactly what your flight experience is." Right now, Marcus kept his eyes forward. The mountains were getting closer. "I have 217 hours in the Apache from flight school. I have done test flights after repairs for 10 years. Maybe another 300 hours of that. I know this bird inside and out, Lieutenant." "But no combat," Anna said. It was not a question. "No combat," Marcus admitted. Anna was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke again. Her voice was harder now. "Listen to me carefully, Sergeant. When we get to that valley, people are going to be shooting at us. Real bullets. Real rockets. This is not a test flight. If you freeze up, we die. Those soldiers die. Everyone dies. Can you handle that?" Marcus had asked himself the same question. 10 years ago, he had frozen during a simulation. It was not even real danger, just a computer program designed to test pilots under pressure. He had failed. The instructors said he did not have what it took to fly in combat. They said he was a good pilot in normal conditions, but he could not handle the stress of real war. Those words had broken something inside him. He had been so sure that flying was his purpose, his calling. When they told him he would never be a combat pilot, it felt like his whole future had collapsed. So he became a mechanic instead. He told himself it was fine. He told himself he was still serving, still helping. But deep down he always wondered, what if they were wrong? What if he could have made it? Now he was about to find out. "I can handle it," Marcus said. His voice was firm. He hoped it was true. They flew in silence for a few minutes. Below them the desert stretched out in all directions, brown and empty. Then the mountains started. Rocky ridges and deep valleys. This was dangerous territory. Enemy fighters used these mountains to hide and move around. The Tangi Valley was one of the worst areas. Marcus checked his map and coordinates. They were 15 minutes away from the target area. 15 minutes until everything would change. Back at the base, Captain Morrison stood in the operations center. She had a radio in one hand and a phone in the other. She was talking to Sergeant Chen in the valley. "How are you holding up, Sergeant?" she asked. "We are still here, ma'am. But it is getting bad. Wilson and Martinez are hit. Wilson has a leg wound. Martinez took a round in the shoulder. We are down to our last magazines. We need that Apache." "It is coming, Sergeant." 10 minutes out. "Can you hold for 10 more minutes?" There was a pause. Gunfire crackled through the phone. "We will have to, ma'am." "Tell that pilot to hurry." Morrison looked at the map on the wall. Red marks showed where the American soldiers were trapped. Blue marks showed enemy positions in the ridges above them. It was a bad situation. The soldiers had walked into a perfect ambush. The enemy had the high ground and good cover. Without air support, those 12 men had no chance. She grabbed another radio. "Webb, this is Morrison. What is your status?" Marcus heard her voice in his helmet. "We are 8 minutes from the target area, Captain. All systems are green. We are ready." "Good, Chen says they are almost out of ammunition. 2 wounded. You need to suppress those enemy positions fast so they can move to cover." "Understood, ma'am." Morrison hesitated. Then she spoke again. "Webb, I know this is your first combat mission. I know what I am asking you to do. But those men are counting on you. Do not let them down." Marcus felt the weight of those words. 12 men, 12 lives, all depending on him. On the man who was not good enough to be a pilot. On the man who froze under pressure. "I will not let them down, Captain," he said. "I promise." Anna heard the conversation. She checked her weapon systems. The 30mm chain gun was loaded and ready. The Hellfire missiles were armed. The rockets were good to go. Everything was working perfectly. But weapons did not matter if the pilot could not get them into position. She decided to push Marcus, to test him. "Sergeant, what is your plan when we reach the valley?" Marcus had been thinking about this since they took off. He knew the Tangi Valley. He had studied maps of it. Many helicopters had been shot down in valleys like this. The enemy knew how to use the terrain. They knew where to position themselves to trap aircraft in crossfire. "We will come in from the east," Marcus said. "The sun will be behind us. That will make it harder for them to aim. We will stay low and use the ridgeline for cover. Once we identify the enemy positions, you will engage with the chain gun first. Save the missiles for hardened positions or if we see vehicle-mounted weapons. Anna was surprised. That was a good plan. A smart plan. What about our exit strategy? We will circle back south and gain altitude over open ground. If we take fire, we will not be trapped in the valley. We keep our escape route open at all times. Anna felt a little bit of her nervousness fade. Maybe this mechanic knew what he was doing after all. Okay, Sergeant. That works. But if things go bad, you follow my lead on weapons employment. Deal? Deal, Marcus said. They were 5 minutes from the valley now. Marcus could see smoke rising in the distance. That was where the fight was happening. His mouth felt dry. His heart was beating faster. He noticed his hands were gripping the controls too tight. He made himself relax. Breathe. Stay calm. He thought about the first time he sat in an Apache cockpit. He was 22 years old, fresh out of basic training. He had been so excited. Flying had always been his dream. When he got accepted to flight school, it was the happiest day of his life. He was going to be a pilot. He was going to serve his country from the sky. Flight school was hard, harder than anything he had ever done, but he was good at it. He learned fast. He understood the mechanics of flying better than most students because he had always been good with machines. His instructors said he had natural talent. They said he would make a fine pilot. Then came the advanced training, the high-pressure simulations. They put students in impossible situations to see how they would react. Engine failures, hydraulic problems, enemy fire, multiple emergencies at once. Most students handled it well. Some even excelled. Marcus failed. The simulation gave him a scenario where his Apache was hit by ground fire. Multiple systems failed at once. He had to keep the helicopter in the air while his weapons officer was wounded and unconscious. Enemy fighters were closing in. He had maybe 60 seconds to make decisions or the simulation would show him crashing and dying. He froze. His hands locked on the controls. His mind went blank. The instructors watched as the simulation timer counted down. 50 seconds. 40 seconds. 30 seconds. Marcus just sat there, not moving, not thinking. Frozen. When it was over, the head instructor called him into an office. The man was not mean about it. He was actually kind. He told Marcus that he had excellent flying skills, that he was one of the best technical pilots in the class, but combat flying required something else. It required the ability to think and act under extreme pressure, to make life and death decisions in seconds. The instructor said that some people had that ability and some did not. There was no shame in it. It was just how people were built. They offered Marcus a position as a helicopter mechanic. They said his understanding of the aircraft would make him valuable in maintenance. Marcus accepted because he did not know what else to do. His dream was dead. He was never going to be a pilot. That was 10 years ago. 10 years of working on helicopters instead of flying them. 10 years of watching other pilots take off while he stayed on the ground. 10 years of wondering if he could have been different, if he could have been better. 3 minutes, Anna said. Her voice snapped Marcus back to the present. He could see the valley now. It was a narrow canyon with steep walls. Perfect for an ambush. He dropped the Apache lower. They skimmed over the ground at high speed. The helicopter's shadow raced along below them. I have radio contact with the ground team, Anna said. She was talking to Sergeant Chen now, getting final coordinates, getting exact positions for friendly forces and known enemy locations. Marcus listened to the conversation. The soldiers were desperate. Their voices were strained. They had been fighting for over an hour. They were tired and low on everything. He could hear the fear underneath their words. Webb, I am painting targets on your display, Anna said. She had found the enemy positions using the Apache's advanced sensors. Red squares appeared on Marcus's screen. There were 6 different positions, all of them on the high ground, all of them shooting down at the trapped Americans. I see them, Marcus said. His voice was calm, steady. He did not feel calm inside, but his voice did not show it. 30 seconds to contact, Anna said. This was it. Marcus pushed the Apache faster. The valley walls rose up on both sides. They were committed now. No turning back. Marcus saw muzzle flashes from the ridges. The Apache circled over the valley like an angry wasp. Marcus kept the helicopter moving. Never in one place too long, never following the same pattern twice. He had read every after-action report about helicopters in Afghanistan. He knew that predictable flying got you killed. Anna continued firing at enemy positions. The chain gun was incredibly accurate. Each burst lasted only a few seconds, but each burst destroyed cover and forced enemy fighters to hide. Some of them stopped shooting completely. Some tried to run. Target 3 is down, Anna reported. Moving to target 4. Marcus brought the Apache around for another pass. He could see the American soldiers below now. They were moving, running from one piece of cover to another. Sergeant Chen was directing his men. Even from the air, Marcus could see that 2 of them were hurt. One was limping badly. Another had his arm in a makeshift sling. "Chen, this is Webb. What is your status?" Marcus asked. "We are moving to the extraction point," Chen answered. His voice was still tight with stress, but there was hope in it now. "The enemy fire has dropped way down. You are giving us the break we needed, but we have 2 wounded. We cannot move fast. Understood. We will stay on station. Anyone shoots at you, we will take them out." Marcus meant every word. He was not leaving until these men were safe. The mechanic who washed out of flight school. The man who froze under pressure. He was not going to freeze today. Not when lives depended on him. Anna was impressed. She would never say it out loud, not yet. But Marcus was flying better than some of the trained combat pilots she had worked with. He was smooth, controlled. He seemed to know where every threat was before it appeared. He positioned the helicopter perfectly for her to engage targets. "Webb, you are doing great," she said. "But stay sharp. They might have something heavier waiting for us." She was right to worry. The Taliban fighters in these mountains often had RPGs. Rocket-propelled grenades. They were simple weapons but deadly to helicopters. One hit could bring down an Apache. Marcus scanned the ridges. His eyes moved constantly, looking for any sign of danger. The Apache sensors helped, but sometimes the human eye caught things that machines missed. "I see movement on the north ridge," Marcus said suddenly. 3 o'clock high. Anna swung her targeting system to look. At first she saw nothing. Then she spotted them. 3 figures moving between rocks. They were carrying something long. Something that looked like a tube. "RPG team," Anna shouted. "They are setting up to fire." Marcus reacted instantly. He threw the Apache into a hard left turn. The helicopter banked so steeply that Anna felt pressed into her seat. But Marcus was not running away. He was positioning them, giving Anna the angle she needed. "I have tone," Anna said. That meant her Hellfire missile was locked on target. "Firing!" The missile left the rail with a whoosh of flame. It streaked across the valley in 2 seconds. The explosion on the north ridge was massive. Rock and dirt flew into the air. When it cleared, the RPG team was gone. "Good kill," Marcus said. His voice was still calm. Like this was just another training exercise. But inside his heart was pounding. That RPG team had been seconds away from shooting at them. If Anna had been slower, if Marcus had not seen them in time, they would be falling out of the sky right now. But they were not falling. They were still flying, still fighting. Down below, the American soldiers reached the extraction point. It was a slightly wider part of the valley with better cover. Chen got his men into defensive positions. The 2 wounded soldiers were given water and first aid. Everyone reloaded their weapons. "Webb, this is Chen. We are in position. We can hold here until the evac birds arrive. How long can you stay with us?" Marcus checked his fuel gauge. "We have 45 minutes of fuel left. After that, we have to return to base. That should be enough. The Blackhawks are 20 minutes out. Stay with us until they get here?" "We are not going anywhere, Sergeant." "You have our word." Marcus meant it. He would stay until the last possible second. These men had earned that. They had fought hard. They had stayed alive against bad odds. He was not abandoning them now. The next 20 minutes were tense. Marcus kept the Apache circling overhead. Anna watched the sensors for any new threats. A few enemy fighters tried to reposition for better shots at the soldiers. Anna dealt with them quickly. The chain gun barked out short bursts. The enemy learned to stay hidden. Marcus found himself settling into the rhythm of combat flying. It was strange. He had imagined this moment for 10 years. Imagined how he would feel. He thought he would be terrified. Thought he might freeze again like he did in the simulation. But he did not feel terror. He felt focused, alert. Every sense was sharp. Every nerve was alive. This was what flying was supposed to feel like. This was what he had been missing for 10 years. He thought about his old flight instructor. The man who had told him he could not handle pressure. Marcus wished that man could see him now, could see him flying through enemy fire without hesitation, making decisions in split seconds, keeping his crew alive, keeping those soldiers alive. Maybe the instructor had been wrong. Or maybe Marcus had changed. Maybe 10 years of working on helicopters had taught him things that flight school never could. Patience, attention to detail, understanding that every decision mattered, that every action had consequences. "I have incoming aircraft on radar," Anna said. "Bearing 270, distance 10 kilometers." Marcus checked his own screen. 2 helicopters approaching from the west. He radioed them. "Inbound aircraft, this is Apache call sign Hammer 26. Identify yourself," a voice came back immediately. "Hammer 26, this is Dustoff 31 and 32. We are your Black Hawk medical evacuation birds. Are we clear to enter the valley?" "Dustoff, be advised the valley is mostly secure, but there are still enemy fighters in the area. We will cover your approach. Stay high until we tell you otherwise." "Copy that, Hammer. We are putting ourselves in your hands." Marcus felt the weight of that statement. More lives depending on him. The Blackhawks were carrying medics and equipment to help the wounded. But they were also bigger targets than the Apache. Slower, less armored. If enemy fighters got a good shot at them, people would die. "Chen, your ride is almost here," Marcus radioed to the ground team. "Get ready to load your wounded." "Roger that." "We are ready." Marcus watched the Blackhawks get closer. He scanned the ridges one more time, looking for any threat, any hint of danger. He saw nothing, but he stayed alert. "Dustoff, you are clear for approach. Land at the wide section of the valley. We will maintain overwatch." "Understood, Hammer." Coming in now, the 2 Blackhawks descended into the valley. Their rotors kicked up dust as they touched down. Before they even fully landed, the American soldiers were moving. They carried their wounded toward the helicopters. Medics jumped out to help. Everyone moved with practiced efficiency. Marcus kept the Apache circling above. Anna kept her weapons ready. If anyone tried to shoot at those Blackhawks, they would regret it. It took 5 minutes to load everyone. The wounded went first, then their gear, then the rest of the team. Sergeant Chen was the last man to board. He looked up at the Apache above him and gave a thumbs up. Marcus saw it. He nodded even though Chen could not see him. They had done it. All 12 soldiers were getting out alive. "Dustoff 31 and 32 are lifting off," the Black Hawk pilot reported. "Thanks for the cover, Hammer. You saved a lot of lives today." "Just doing our job, Dustoff. Fly safe." Marcus watched the Blackhawks climb out of the valley and turn west toward the base. Only when they were clear of the mountains did he allow himself to relax. "Just a little bit." "Good work, Lieutenant," he said to Anna. "You too, Sergeant," she replied, and this time there was no doubt in her voice. "That was some of the best flying I have ever seen, and I have flown with some really good pilots." Marcus felt something warm spread through his chest. Pride. Not the arrogant kind, the quiet kind, the kind that came from doing something difficult and doing it well. "Thank you," he said simply. "I am serious, Webb. You were smooth. You were smart. You kept us alive and you kept them alive. I would fly with you again any time." Those words meant more to Marcus than she could know. For 10 years he had carried the shame of washing out, the belief that he was not good enough, that he would never be good enough. But today he had proven something. To Anna, to those soldiers, to Captain Morrison. Most importantly, he had proven it to himself. "We should head back to base," Marcus said. "We are getting low on fuel." "Agreed." "Take us home, pilot." Marcus turned the Apache south, toward forward operating base Salerno. Toward home. The sun was lower in the sky now. Late afternoon. The heat was starting to fade. Below them, the mountains looked peaceful. It was hard to believe that just minutes ago people were fighting and dying down there. The flight back was quiet. Anna did not say much. Marcus did not either. They were both processing what had just happened. Both thinking about how close it had been, how differently it could have ended. As the base came into view, Marcus felt something unexpected. Reluctance. He did not want the flight to end. For the first time in 10 years, he had been a pilot again. A real pilot. Not just someone doing test flights. Someone who mattered. Someone who made a difference. "Hammer 26, this is Base Tower. You are cleared to land on Pad 3. Nice work out there. Thank you, Tower. Coming in now." Marcus Webb did not sleep well that night. He lay in his bunk staring at the ceiling. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the valley, heard the gunfire, felt the Apache responding to his controls. His mind would not stop replaying the mission. Over and over again. Part of him could not believe what he had done. He had flown a combat mission, saved 12 lives, done everything right. The mechanic who was not good enough to be a pilot had proven everyone wrong, including himself. But another part of him was worried. What if it was just luck? What if next time he would freeze like he did 10 years ago? What if the real test was still coming? He finally fell asleep around 3 in the morning. 2 hours later, his alarm went off. Time to get back to work. Time to return to being a mechanic. Except when he walked into the hangar, everything had changed. The other mechanics stopped working when they saw him. For a second, Marcus thought they were angry. Then they started clapping. Slowly at first. Then louder. The whole hangar filled with applause. There he is, someone shouted. The flying mechanic! Webb the wizard strikes again. Marcus felt his face get hot. He was not used to this kind of attention. He just nodded and tried to get to his workstation. But Sergeant Miller, one of the senior mechanics, stopped him. Hold on, Webb. Before you start working, Captain Morrison wants to see you. She is in the briefing room. Marcus felt his stomach tighten. A meeting with the captain. That could be good or bad. He had broken about 20 different regulations yesterday. Maybe now came the punishment. He walked across the base to the operations building. The morning sun was already hot. Soldiers moved around doing their daily tasks. Some of them looked at Marcus and pointed. Word had spread fast. Captain Morrison was in the briefing room with 3 other people. Marcus recognized 2 of them. Lieutenant Reyes and Sergeant Chen, the man he had helped rescue. The third person was a colonel. Silver oak leaves on his uniform. Marcus immediately stood at attention. At ease, Sergeant, the colonel said. Have a seat. Marcus sat down. His heart was beating fast. Colonels did not show up for good news. They showed up when something serious was happening. Sergeant Webb, the colonel began. I am Colonel Patterson. I command this forward operating base. I heard about your mission yesterday. Captain Morrison briefed me on everything. Here it comes, Marcus thought. The punishment, but Colonel Patterson smiled. I want to thank you personally. What you did took courage. It took skill. And it saved American lives. That is what matters most, Marcus blinked. Thank you, sir. However, the colonel continued and Marcus tensed up again. We have a problem. What happened yesterday was irregular. You are not qualified as a combat pilot. Technically, you should never have been in that cockpit. If something had gone wrong, it would have been a legal nightmare. Yes, sir, I understand. But something did not go wrong. In fact, everything went right, which creates an interesting situation. The colonel leaned forward. Sergeant Chen, would you like to share your thoughts? Chen stood up. He looked directly at Marcus. Sergeant Webb, I want you to know that you saved my life yesterday. You saved 11 other lives. We were done. Finished. If that Apache had not shown up, we would all be dead right now. My wife would be a widow. My daughter would have no father. Because of you, I get to go home and see them again. Chen's voice cracked a little. He cleared his throat. I do not care what your file says. I do not care what happened 10 years ago. You are a pilot, a damn good one, and I will tell that to anyone who asks. Marcus did not know what to say. He just nodded. Chen sat back down. Lieutenant Reyes stood up next. I flew with Sergeant Webb yesterday, she said. I have flown with many pilots in my career. Good ones, great ones. Webb is one of the best. His flying was textbook perfect. Better than textbook. He has instincts that cannot be taught. He makes the right decisions without thinking. That is rare. Very rare, she paused. I was skeptical when I learned I would be flying with a mechanic. I thought it was crazy, dangerous. But after that mission, I would trust Sergeant Webb with my life. I would fly with him again tomorrow. Morrison nodded. Colonel, I know I bent the rules yesterday. I know I could be disciplined for it. But I would make the same decision again. Those men needed help. Webb was the only option, and he delivered. Colonel Patterson listened to all of this. Then he looked at Marcus. Sergeant, I'm going to ask you a direct question. I want a direct answer. Do you want to be a pilot again? The question hung in the air. Marcus felt like the whole room was holding its breath. This was it. The moment that could change everything. 10 years ago, when they told him he washed out, he had been devastated. He had given up on flying. Told himself that mechanics were important too. That he was serving in a different way. And that was true. Mechanics were important. The Army could not function without them. But flying was something else. Flying was freedom, purpose, joy, all mixed together. Yesterday, in that cockpit, Marcus had felt more alive than he had in a decade. He had felt like he was doing what he was meant to do. "Yes, sir," Marcus said. His voice was firm, clear. "I want to be a pilot." Colonel Patterson smiled. "Good, because I am sending a recommendation up the chain of command. I am requesting that you be given another chance at flight school. This time with full support. Captain Morrison will write a letter of recommendation. So will Lieutenant Reyes. And Sergeant Chen has already written a statement about what you did for his team." Marcus could not believe what he was hearing. Another chance. After 10 years. After washing out. After accepting that he would never fly in combat. Now he was getting another chance. "Sir, I do not know what to say." "Say yes, Sergeant." "Yes, sir. Absolutely yes. It will not be immediate," the colonel warned. "These things take time. Paperwork, approvals. It might be months before you actually get orders. But I am confident it will happen. In the meantime, you will continue your duties as a mechanic. You will not fly any more combat missions unless it is another emergency. Is that clear?" "Yes, sir." "Good. Dismissed." Marcus stood up. He saluted. As he turned to leave, Sergeant Chen stopped him. "Webb, can I talk to you for a minute?" They walked outside together. Chen led him to a quiet spot behind the building. Then he pulled out his phone. "I want to show you something," Chen said. He pulled up a photo. It showed a smiling woman holding a little girl. The girl had pigtails and was missing 2 front teeth. "That is my wife Sarah and my daughter Emma. She is 6 years old." Marcus looked at the photo. The little girl was beautiful. Happy. "Because of you, I will see them again," Chen said. His voice was thick with emotion. "Because of you, Emma will not grow up without a father. I owe you everything, Webb. If you ever need anything at all, you call me. Understood?" He handed Marcus a piece of paper with his contact information. Marcus took it. "You do not owe me anything, Sergeant. I was just doing my job." "No, you went way beyond your job. You risked your career, maybe even your freedom, all to save people you never met. That is not just doing your job. That is being a hero." Chen shook Marcus's hand hard. Then he walked away. Marcus stood there holding the photo and the contact information. He thought about Emma, about how close she had come to losing her father, about how different things could have been if he had said no yesterday. If he had stayed on the ground, the rest of the day passed in a blur. Marcus tried to work on helicopters like normal, but everyone kept stopping him, asking questions, wanting to hear about the mission. Some of them wanted to shake his hand. Others wanted to take pictures with him. It was overwhelming. Marcus was not used to being the center of attention. He was used to being in the background, the quiet guy who fixed things. Now everyone was treating him like something special. By evening, he was exhausted. He skipped dinner and went back to his bunk. He needed some quiet time, some space to think about everything that was happening. But sleep did not come easy again. His mind was racing, thinking about flight school, about becoming a pilot for real this time, about proving that he was good enough. Around midnight, the alarm sounded. Marcus sat up fast. The base alarm meant trouble. Big trouble. He pulled on his uniform and ran outside. Other soldiers were running too, everyone heading toward the operations center. Marcus made it to the hangar. Captain Morrison was already there. So were several pilots and mechanics. Everyone looked worried. "Listen up," Morrison shouted. "We just got a priority distress call. An Army convoy was hit by an IED 20 miles north of here. Multiple vehicles destroyed. Multiple casualties. They are under attack from enemy fighters. They need immediate evacuation and air support." She looked around the room. "I need 2 Apaches in the air right now. Davidson and Torres, you are up." "Get moving." 2 pilots ran to their helicopters. Mechanics scrambled to prep the birds. Marcus moved to help. This was what he did. This was his job. But then Morrison shouted again. "Wait, we have a problem. Torres's Apache has a hydraulic leak. It is not flight-worthy. Webb, how long to fix it?" Marcus ran to the helicopter. He could see the leak. It was bad. At least 2 hours, maybe 3. We do not have 3 hours. Those soldiers do not have 3 hours. Morrison looked around desperately. Only one Apache was ready to fly. But you never sent a single helicopter into a combat zone. It was too dangerous. They always flew in pairs. The Apache cut through the night sky. Below them, Afghanistan was dark except for scattered lights from villages and bases. Marcus flew fast. Every second mattered. Somewhere ahead, American soldiers were fighting for their lives. "I have radio contact with the convoy," Ana Reyes said from the back seat. "Call sign is Sierra 2-1. "They sound bad, Webb, really bad." Marcus keyed his radio. "Sierra 2-1, this is Apache Hammer 2-6. We are inbound to your position." "What is your status?" The voice that came back was young, scared. "Hammer, we are in deep trouble. Our lead vehicle hit an IED, 3 dead, multiple wounded. Enemy fighters are attacking from the hills on both sides. We are trapped on the road. We cannot move the wounded. We cannot retreat. We need help right now." Marcus could hear gunfire through the radio, explosions, men shouting. It sounded like chaos. "How many fighters?" Marcus asked. He kept his voice calm, steady. These soldiers needed to hear confidence, not fear. "Unknown. At least 20. Maybe more. They have machine guns, RPGs. We are taking fire from 3 different directions. Hold tight, Sierra. We are 5 minutes out. Stay in cover. Help is coming." Marcus pushed the Apache faster. The helicopter shook slightly from the speed. Next to him on the instrument panel, a red warning light flickered. The aircraft was working hard, but it could take it. Marcus had made sure of that. He had maintained this bird himself. "Webb, I am picking up heat signatures ahead," Ana said. "Multiple sources. Lots of movement. This is going to be hot. I know. Get your systems ready. We are going in hard and fast." Ana ran through her weapons checks. Chain gun loaded. Missiles armed. Rockets ready. Everything was green. She was ready to fight. But as they got closer, she noticed something. Marcus's breathing had changed. It was faster, rougher. She could hear it through the intercom. "Webb, you okay up there?" "I am fine," Marcus said. But his voice sounded tight. The convoy came into view. Even in the darkness, Marcus could see the destruction. The lead vehicle was on fire. Black smoke rose into the night sky. Other vehicles were scattered on the road. Some were on their sides. Men were crouched behind whatever cover they could find. Muzzle flashes lit up the hills on both sides. It was worse than the valley yesterday. "Much worse, oh no," Ana whispered. "Webb, there are so many of them." She was right. The thermal imaging showed enemy fighters everywhere. At least 30 of them, maybe 40. They had the convoy surrounded. This was not just an ambush. This was an execution. Marcus felt his chest get tight. His hands on the controls started to shake. This was too much. Too many enemies. Too much danger. What if he made a mistake? What if he got it wrong? What if he failed and those soldiers died because of him? The old fear came rushing back. The fear that had ended his career 10 years ago. The fear that said he was not good enough, that he would freeze when it mattered most. His vision started to narrow. Tunnel vision, a sign of panic. His breathing got even faster. The Apache wobbled slightly in the air. "Webb!" Ana shouted. "What is wrong?" "Talk to me." But Marcus could not talk. He was back in that simulation. Back in flight school, watching the timer count down, frozen, unable to move, unable to think. The instructors watching him fail. The shame, the disappointment, the knowledge that he was not good enough, not good enough. Not good enough, not good enough. The words repeated in his head like a drum. His hands were locked on the controls. The Apache was still flying, but barely. They were losing altitude, drifting off course. On the ground, the convoy commander saw the helicopter. Saw it wobbling, saw it struggling. "Hammer 2-6, are you hit?" "What is your status?" Ana saw the ground getting closer. They were going to crash. She had to do something. "Webb, Marcus, listen to me. Those men are going to die. You are the only one who can save them. You have to fly. You have to fight." But Marcus could not hear her. He was lost in the panic, lost in the fear. This was it. This was the moment he always knew would come. The moment he would fail again. Then something happened. Through the chaos in his mind, Marcus heard a different voice. A memory, his old flight instructor from 10 years ago, the man who had told him he was not good enough. But Marcus realized something. He was not remembering the bad part. He was remembering something else. Something the instructor had said before the simulation, before the failure. Webb, you are one of the best technical pilots I have ever seen. You understand these machines in your soul. That is a gift. Trust yourself. Trust the aircraft. She will tell you what she needs. You just have to listen. Trust the aircraft. She will tell you what she needs. Marcus felt the Apache in his hands. The vibration of the rotors, the response of the controls. The machine was not panicking. The machine was ready. The machine was waiting for him to tell it what to do. The aircraft does not care about your fear. She only knows what you tell her. Marcus's vision cleared. His breathing slowed. His hands moved on the controls. Smooth, confident, natural. He pulled the Apache out of its drift, brought it back to altitude, brought it back under control. I am okay, he said. His voice was steady again. I am okay. Let us do this. Anna felt relief flood through her. Webb, what just happened? I remembered something, Marcus said. I remembered who I am. He banked the Apache hard toward the convoy. The wobbling was gone. The uncertainty was gone. Marcus Webb was flying again. Really flying. Anna, I need you to trust me. I'm going to do something crazy. What? I am going to put us between those RPG teams and the convoy. We are going to be the shield. When I give you the word, you light them up with everything we have. Anna understood immediately. It was brilliant and terrifying. Webb, that puts us right in their line of fire. If they hit us, we are done. They are not going to hit us. Trust me. Marcus dove the Apache toward the road. He dropped altitude fast, faster than any textbook would recommend. The helicopter screamed through the air like a falling stone. At the last second, he pulled up hard. The Apache leveled out just 30 feet above the convoy, right between the soldiers and the enemy fighters on the East Hill. The move was so sudden and unexpected that the enemy stopped shooting for a moment. They stared at the helicopter that had appeared out of nowhere. That moment was all Anna needed. Firing. She opened up with the chain gun. The 30mm rounds tore into the hillside. Enemy fighters disappeared in explosions of dirt and rock. She walked the fire across the entire position. Machine gun nests were destroyed. Fighters trying to run were cut down. The chain gun was merciless. Marcus kept the Apache steady, holding position, being the shield. Rounds started hitting the helicopter's armor. He could hear them pinging off the fuselage. But the armor held. The Apache was built tough. Targets on the west side. Anna called out. More enemies trying to flank the convoy. Marcus spun the Apache around. The turn was so tight and fast that it defied physics. He brought them into position for Anna to engage the west side. Hellfire missiles away. 2 missiles streaked from the Apache. They hit a cluster of fighters behind rocks. The explosion lit up the night. When the smoke cleared, that threat was gone, but more appeared. An RPG team on the North Ridge. They were aiming directly at the convoy. Marcus saw them through his targeting system. They were seconds from firing. He did not hesitate. He threw the Apache into a vertical climb, straight up into the sky. The sudden acceleration pressed him into his seat. Then at the top of the climb, he flipped the helicopter over into an inverted dive, nose down, screaming toward the RPG team. Anna could not believe what she was seeing. Webb, what are you doing? Giving you a shot, take it. She had a perfect angle. The chain gun roared. The RPG team was eliminated before they could fire. Marcus pulled out of the dive at the last possible moment. The Apache's skids were so close to the ground they kicked up dust. That was insane, Anna shouted. But she was laughing. That was absolutely insane. It worked, did it not? Marcus continued the attack. He flew patterns that no instructor had ever taught. Moves that came from pure instinct. The Apache moved like it was alive, like it was dancing. Every turn put them in position to attack. Every dive and climb kept them out of enemy fire. He was not just flying the helicopter. He was one with it. On the ground, the convoy soldiers watched in amazement. They had never seen flying like this. The Apache was everywhere at once. Every time an enemy position fired, the helicopter was there to destroy it. The pressure on the convoy eased, then stopped completely. The enemy fighters were dead or running. Hammer 2-6, this is Sierra 2-1, the convoy commander radioed. I do not know who is flying that bird, but he just saved our lives. The enemy is breaking contact. We have secured the area. Good to hear it, Sierra, Marcus replied. Medical evacuation helicopters are 15 minutes out. Get your wounded ready to load, roger that. And Hammer? Thank you. We owe you everything. Marcus circled the convoy one more time. making sure all threats were gone. The Apache had taken some hits. A few minor systems were damaged, but nothing critical. Nothing that would stop them from flying home. "Anna, we need to head back to base," Marcus said. "We are getting low on fuel and ammunition." "Agreed." That was some flying, Webb. Some really incredible flying. As they turned south toward home, Anna asked the question she'd been holding. "What happened back there?" "When you froze up, I thought we were going to crash." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "I panicked.